Last week, I was able to take a 1-week vacation to Oregon. Oregon is rich with national forests, rivers, lakes, waterfalls, and even the ocean. So I had lots of opportunities to spend a significant time in nature every day. In this video, I'll be sharing the many insights I had through observing nature, spanning from a simple analogy about resistance to the importance of finding balance and space for healing, to the trap of attaching to our stories, and lastly, learning how to shift our perspective to see things from a different vantage point. But before I do, if at the end of this video you found that it was helpful, then please like and subscribe so this message can reach more people who might also benefit from watching. Nature is an incredible resource, an exemplary teacher, gently reminding us of our true nature because it is always resting in pure being. But modern life is chock full of addictive habits that none of us are immune to. And for anyone who has experienced depression firsthand, getting outside and being in the sun can feel like someone just poured acid into your eyeballs. But if you ever want to quickly shift your mood and feel more peaceful, calm, and connected, then being in nature is a surefire way to do it. Row, row, row your boat. Having 2 kids, over the years, I've sung Row, Row, Row Your Boat to them numerous times. But it took me about 30 years before I actually realized how much wisdom was contained in its lyrics. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. Let me explain further. One of the really fun things that I got to do this last week that I had never done before was kayaking. When we started out in the water, we initially had to paddle upstream. I was very aware of the fact that it took a great deal of effort to move the kayak, no matter how hard I pushed the paddles against the water. I would paddle and paddle, only to feel as though I had moved no more than an inch. This paddling upstream business was no joke. After some time, I remember looking down at my hand and seeing this little flap of skin dangling from my thumb because of the constant repetition of pushing against the paddle. Once it was time to head back, we turned the kayak around and went downstream, flowing with the river instead of against it. Mind you, it was a very gentle river. There wasn't much of a current, but it took such little force to paddle and make progress when we were flowing downstream. I could even rest the paddles in my lap and let the river do all the work. I was dumbfounded by the difference between the 2 experiences. It immediately reminded me, this is how effortless life feels when we stop resisting what is. The thing is this, it doesn't take much effort to make our lives miserable. Even a little bit of effort can be painful and arduous. And yet just a little bit of flowing downstream, whether it be in the form of a little more acceptance, a little more joy, a little more laughter, a little more creativity, is such a relief. It sets you up in the right direction. All resistance is suffering, and simply put, resistance is not being happy with the way something is. Whenever we are resisting something, then we're working hard to paddle upstream. We're fighting against life, and we're paying heavily for it. Working hard, working in a way that feels stupid, because we're banging our head against what is. Even if you're unclear about something and confused about your next step, it's better to let go and float downstream to stay open and trust that you will be carried to the next destination effortlessly. Then clarity will come. When we let go of trying to hold on to things so tightly, then we give life the opportunity to take us downstream. And like the children's song, we can choose to gently row downstream and merrily realize that the things of the world are but a dream. Balance. Most of us are so wrapped up with work, family, our ambitions, our problems, that finding time to be in nature is not a priority. But think about how natural it is for us to be in nature. Being locked up in a room staring at a computer screen or your cell phone all day is not an environment that feeds your soul. We need to learn to prioritize being outside, around trees and water, the sun, to find some balance in the world of constant work, work, work. Like laughter, we need to learn how to make time for the things that we typically think of as luxuries. I mean, who has time to laugh when they're working so hard towards their goals? Who has time to sit in nature and get quiet and reflect when they have bills to pay and kids to worry about? You're not going to take your money, success, or goals with you when you die, and your life is passing by. So when are you going to make time to find some balance? I remember learning as a dancer that balancing on one leg when done correctly is effortless. There's no strain, no effort, just this wonderful lightness that when you find that perfect place to hold yourself that keeps you in that state, it's amazing. When we learn how to take time for the things that nourish and heal us, then we begin to heal. And like balancing on one leg, we can find that effortless balance in our lives. Remember, don't aim for perfection. Even making time just once a week to be out in nature can have a huge impact on finding more balance in your life. Being in nature connects us to that part of us that is pure being, reminding us that we can have being calm and remember that we are always being taken care of. The other thing that I was reminded of while in Oregon is that everything in nature happens for a reason. Nothing is without purpose. It's perfectly balanced all of the time, unless humans are doing something to disturb that balance. On one of the hikes that we went on, my partner was telling me that when trees would fall into the river, they used to take them out, thinking that if they didn't, it would somehow disturb the flow of the water. But later they realized that the fallen trees were providing a safe haven for the fish to breed in calmer waters. So they had to start putting all the fallen trees back into the river. Everything in nature is so perfectly balanced. Symbiotic relationships abound, and things always have a reason for being there. Just like you were put here for a reason, and you're part of that perfect balance of all that is. Worlds within worlds. When I'm in nature, I tend to look down a lot so I can see where I'm stepping. And I'm always amazed at all the life under my feet. I inevitably start to wonder things like, what does an ant experience? They are in their own little ant world, getting things done and living their little ant lives. And just like most animals, they are completely unaware of most of the other types of life forms that exist in the world, except for the ones that they relate with directly. Humans, too, can become consumed with their own lives, the small network of people that they relate to, their own unique stories and problems. It's as if we have tunnel vision and we become limited to navigating in our own separate universe. It's a good reminder to remember that we are the happiest, the most useful, when we are identifying with the aspect of ourselves that is infinite. Unlike the ant, we can choose to remember to use our awareness to observe what we really are. Flying above the clouds. The flight back home to Los Angeles was at night, and when the plane was descending, I could see the clouds below us. There was something so magical about those clouds. Looking at them from up above made me realize how perceiving things from a different vantage point can make something typical and mundane seemingly magical. Many masters have compared the thoughts in our mind to clouds in the sky, coming and going in a constant state of flux. But our consciousness is like the sky, open, clear, vast, spacious. Our consciousness is what our thoughts are birthed out of. It is what you're left with when you take away all form. I was reminded of this when looking down at the clouds from the opposite perspective that I usually have when looking at them. Like the clouds, we usually see our thoughts from the same perspective. Our brains are on autopilot, looping the same thoughts day in and day out. To shift our perspective, we need to simply separate from our thoughts, to practice witnessing them without identifying with them. Then we can create enough space so that we can look at them from a different vantage point, gaining newfound insights. I hope this week you can make some time to get outside, give yourself some deep breaths, and soak in the abundance that nature is wanting to share with you. I love you all so much. Until next time, remember to let go. Let go of trying to be anything other than the truth of what you are.